Welcome to our discussion of Parshat Shemot. You know how it is with children and parents who have children who haven't gotten married at an older age. They start to nag them. They start saying things like, what's wrong with Lucy? She's a perfectly good girl. Well, why didn't you look more carefully? And they start complaining. Well, one man who was really worried about his daughters was Jethro. There he was living in the middle of the desert, and he had 7 daughters. And how was he going to marry them all off? What happened? One day, there was a wonderful man who came through town, and he saved the girls from the terrible shepherds who had stolen their water. And they come home and they tell their father. And he says, "What? Are you out of your mind? Such a gem passes through town, and you don't invite him in. Go back, quick, go get him. Let's invite him for lunch." They invite him for lunch, and sure enough, he agrees to stay for many years to live with them, and he marries one of his daughters. Just imagine if the daughters hadn't mentioned what happened that day at the well. Just imagine if Jethro had said, "Oh, that's nice, let's eat lunch." Moshe would never have been at the burning bush. He wouldn't have gotten amazing advice from his father-in-law, and he wouldn't have been the Moshe that we all know and love. Yitro was a great influence. And then we have the story of the burning bush. He said, let me take a look at that bush. Hashem saw that he took note. Many commentaries say, this is amazing that Moshe takes the time to notice. Perhaps this is a metaphor for the notion that Moshe took time to notice the suffering of the Jews. Had Moshe said, well, the Jews are suffering, but I've got my own life, and let's not worry about that. Had Moshe said, so a bush is burning, whatever, let's continue. There would be no burning bush, there'd be no Moshe, there'd be no salvation, there'd be no redemption, at least as we know it today. Finally, the burning bush, Hashem says to him, "What do you got in your hand?" He says, "It's a staff." And they do the old snake and staff trick. And then he says, "Take that staff and go and appear before Pharaoh." And the Sphard-Beth says that staff will now become a staff of leadership. So it was just a staff. It was just a stick. Maybe he was using it to go around with the sheep and direct them in the right way. It was just a flimsy piece of a stick. He says, what today looks like a flimsy stick, tomorrow could be the staff of leadership. You, Moshe, will be the great leader. You know that when Samuel was looking for the next king, he went to the man with 7 sons, and he said, this one was so tall and handsome. Who would be this king? Of course, it was the one who wasn't even there. He was with the sheep. And the one they least thought would be chosen. Even Masu Abonim, the rock that was rejected by the builders. Haitala Rosh Pinat became the cornerstone. There are so many times when we don't notice things in life and we miss opportunities. My Rabbi Label Dulitz passed away this week. And he was a man who took note of me when I came into his class. He expected a lot from me. He expected that I know every answer, I know what every word meant. And he was very upset if I didn't know something in the Talmud. He had great expectations for me. He saw me not just as a student, but as someone who had potential, and he tried to bring that out in me, for which I am eternally grateful. That's our job. Our job is to take note of the students in our class, take note of the staff that's in our hand, take note of the young man who came by today, the encounter that you had today, and what potential that would have in your life to make your life better and theirs. If we take note, if we're people who take a moment for hisbonenus, to think and ponder and to notice, then we perhaps will be those who will notice the burning bush while others may walk by. We will take note, and maybe, who knows, that staff, that bush, that could indeed change our lives. Thank you for joining us here at the Anshei Sphard-Beth congregation for our discussion, Parshat Shemot. Join us each week for a discussion of the holidays and the Parsha. Thank you very much.